How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to go over some theory crafting for some builds potentially for the Chronomancer. We don't have the full ascendancy tree, or the specifics of exactly how certain things work, so it's a little hard to really fine-tune on anything, but we can still plan for a lot of things based off of what information we do have, which is all of the supports, all of the skills. I believe actually all the skills. I'm not even sure if we actually have all those, but we do definitely have all the supports. So we can go based off of those, which there's a few key supports that if we're looking purely at just the Ascendancy itself, one of the most interesting things about the Ascendancy is going to be Time Snap, which Jonathan did say it resets the cooldowns on all of your spells. He did say spells, but given that there isn't really any skills with cooldowns, we're basically hoping that he is meaning all of your skills, and it would be weird for them to have something that would be tied directly to spells and not to all skills. So we're hoping, or I'm hoping rather, that this is going to affect all skills, because in regards to cooldowns for spells, there isn't really any, right? We have Hammer of the Gods, which is a really high cooldown mace skill, which has a lot of damage, very high cooldown though. Does use a hammer, or a mace rather, one-handed or two-hander. And then when we start looking down through all the other cooldown spells, we have Warcry here. That's not going to be really that relevant. We have Mana Tempest, which does have a little bit of a cooldown, but it's not really much. It's literally 1 second, and it just doesn't have a cooldown while it's in progress, which it's only 1 second, so you're not really going to be using it for that. Then we have like the more attacks here, right, with Oil Grenade, with we have with here like Flash Grenade, things like that. But if you look at all the other cooldowns, these are all just purely related to the resummon times of minions, right? So there's a single spell that has a long cooldown, and that is I believe the cooldown for Frost Bomb is like 3.5 seconds, but that's not made to be an actual damaging spell, right? You're mainly just using that for other things. Everything else is about a 1 second cooldown. So we have Cluster Grenade at a 10-second cooldown, and then we have again Hammer of the Gods at 24-second, and then Cold Snap has a cast time, or a cooldown time of like 3 to 4 seconds, something like that, right? Frost Wall 3 seconds, Frost Bomb 3.5 seconds. These are both really utility skills. They don't seem to be made for anything, so I'm hoping that the Time Snap is not just for resetting the cooldowns on Time Freeze and Temporal Rift. It's going to feel a little bad. I don't know if you've noticed, but in the video, you have to path all the way to 4 points in to get those. So in the picture, you have to path all the way to the far side of the tree in order to get those. That's on the opposite side of getting your freeze ability, right? So if you are going to go Chronomancer, it's on the complete opposite side of the tree from that of the freeze nodes themselves. So because of that, I don't even know if we're going to be able to get them in early access, because that requires you to have 8 points in order to have Time Freeze and Time Snap. It's one of those ones where, again, we're at this point where a lot of things are in a toss-up, but there's still some cool theory crafting to be made. So there's a few big supports that are definitely seem like they are made in line with the Time Snap ability to be able to reset the cooldowns, and that is Hourglass support here, which you can see, which the supported skill deals 50% more damage, but it has an 8 second longer cooldown. And then you have Second Wind support as well, which gives it twice as many cooldown uses, but gives it a lower cooldown recovery rate. So there's a few use cases for this. A lot of for Second Wind, especially if Time Snap itself, again, works with attacks. If it's going to reset an attack, or a skill rather, to all of the available charges for it, then it has the potential to be really, really strong, right? We can get Hammer of the Gods on with 2 different supports, right? So you can imagine that you're going to basically just end up you're going to bonk here, right? You're going to hammer, you're going to snap, and you're going to basically reset the cooldowns on both of these. And then you're going to basically get to do it again, and you're going to get to bonk and bonk again. Same thing goes for things like Cluster Grenade, or there's another grenade skill. It's not a support here. There's another grenade skill that already has 3 charges. I think this explosive grenade is the one I was looking at before. Explosive grenade, right, we already saw it in the video. It was already doing quite a bit of damage for that. So that's going to be another one of those use cases where it has the potential to be really, really nice, right? If it does seem like Time Snap does only work with skills, we're not really going to get to take advantage of basically using this on an attack build whatsoever. So we'll have to forget about using it with grenades or any of this, making good use of Hammer of the Gods and these other supports. And it may just be used, honestly, just to reset time freeze for now, right? There might be some other skills that we know about or that end up getting released, or there might be something else. But hopefully it affects attacks, because if it does, then again, there's some really cool interactions you can do with this. There's always the potential as well that Temporal Rift does end up resetting cooldowns as well. Presuming it works anything like it does work in Guild Wars 2, right? Chronomancer is a class from Guild Wars 2, and that you have, again, you have a spell that can reset the cooldowns of one spell, or basically like Temporal Rift, which will basically it will reset you backwards like 4 seconds. So the way to do that is you basically cast all of your stuff, or you use your thing that's going to basically lock you in place, and then when you click it again, it's going to reset you back to that place. So you basically lock yourself at a point in time, you cast your abilities, you reset yourself back in time, and then those cooldowns are back up again. You use those cooldowns, and then you use your Time Snap, which has a really long cooldown, in order to actually reset all of those things again and then do it all over again. So there's a potential you're going to be able to do that. Temporal Rift is probably going to work like it does in Path of Exile 1, which is just reset your life, mana, and energy shield. But, we don't know until they actually give us the numbers on things. So it's always fun to speculate in Theorycraft. So if we can't do that, and it is just going to be spells, the Time Snap aspect of this might not be used that much right now. We might just be going for Time Freeze. There's some other caveats to be made. Does freezing something with Time Freeze count as freezing them, right? Because if they do, there are some, spirit abilities that are going to be cast on freeze, right? Does freezing with a time freeze count as freezing them as a cast freeze? This just says when you freeze enemies. It doesn't explicitly state when you freeze enemies with cold damage, right? So this is, again, a lot of theory crafting, but we don't really know. So if you have watched Subtractum's footage for when it comes to leveling this build up to actually Chronomancer itself, you'll notice he was talking about, he had a scenario where he started off his witch gameplay with a very, very strong staff, right? He started with a staff that's +2 to cold damage, and he ended up using this all the way into his level 40 or so before he ended up finding something that was better than it, just because the +2 to cold spells and the bonus cold damage was so strong that he went from playing a mercenary that was taking an extremely long time to do a boss to going over and playing on the Sork and basically melting the boss in just a few seconds. You can see here in the video, he ends up showing this, just showcasing a couple of the bosses, and you'll see the damage he has on this is quite severe just because of the fact that he has gear. I think what that is going to mean is what spell you end up using for leveling is going to determine a lot based off of the gear that you get. Because we don't have any choice on the gear that we get for leveling, if you end up getting, again, a +2 to lightning, you're going to end up using lightning skills. If you get a +2 to fire or to whatever, you're just going to end up on those skills, because the gear is going to drive your character in that direction. On the bright side, what that does also mean, though, is that luckily with where things are pathed on the tree and with the ability to respec at any time using gold, it is easy to basically swap between builds pretty quickly, depending on what you end up getting as drops or as gear, right? So you can see, again, that was just another boss that he just melted pretty much instantly, right? That looked like a PoE 1 boss time. I mean, that's faster than we kill most bosses even in the PoE 1 campaign right now, early on with gear, right? So what that does mean, though, is based off of what you actually see here on the tree, is a lot of the elemental nodes are actually right next to each other, right? So if we are on this witch start here, which we are going to end up starting on the int node here, both the witch and the sorceress both start at the same spot. So they both have the int start, which basically means, I think, based off of what we see with the weapon, with just the +2 being so strong, is you're pretty much just going to want to rush, kind of push up here to this +1 to level up all cold spells. I'm sure there's going to be one here for lightning and one for fire as well, right? If there's one for cold, there's going to be one for the others as well. It would be weird for there not to be. There's one for chaos somewhere over here as well. I think that was revealed somewhere. So it's not like cold damage is special in any way either. So one of the other things is, while we're on this tree, kind of pushing up here, you can push yourself. Getting this increased energy shield recharge rate could be really nice. I don't know how the availability of ES gear, but there's a few little points that you can kind of get on the way. There is one over here as well that's going to give you bonus cold damage as fire damage against frozen enemies. So if you do end up on cold spells, this one's big to pick up. It does make enemies freeze a little bit faster as well. If you look at this wheel over here, if this one is 15% fire pen or 15% fire res pen, then you know these are going to be lightning pen and cold pen respectively. So you can path right into those, but pretty much it looks like the tree you're going to want to be pushing up towards is, again, pushing towards this chance for energy shield recharge to start immediately when you're using skills, because it is a 4-second cooldown otherwise. So if you're, again, using any spells that cast at like a 0.4 second cooldown, that's going to give you an extra chance, basically, right? You have sometime within the 4 seconds you're likely to end up proccing it. If you have triggers, maybe those triggers will count. It doesn't say when you cast a skill, so it does say when you use a skill, so this should work with triggers. Triggers typically in PoE 1 don't work when they say cast a skill, because you're not casting it, you're triggering it, but this is when you use one. So this isn't saying that you need to use it without triggering. It may or may not work, but even if it doesn't, it still should be pretty good to pick up, and it gives you extra energy shield recharge rate as well. So the other ones, there are some points around here for ES, basically a little bit in a different spots over here. I think over on this side is where you actually get to the ES to make it to where ES starts very quickly. I gotta find it here. Where did it go? There's an ES node that basically makes your energy shield recharge start faster. It might be all the way over here, tucked away in the corner. So, oh, here we go. Faster energy shield start recharge, right? Faster start is going to be kind of important, just because of the fact that, again, it does start at 4 seconds now. So you want to basically get that started as soon as possible. It's a little hard to go 4 seconds without getting hit, potentially. So that might cause some issues. So because of that, you're probably going to want to path into that as well if you end up on energy shield. Alternatively, again, if we are going with the weapon route, you will end up pathing, and you'll just start basically pathing yourself down into the melee stuff pretty early. It's one of those things where, again, it's hard to say without knowing the game if it's going to be worthwhile to be pathing down there. It might just be one of those things, again, where you end up staying on spells until you unlock those points for Chronomancer, and to where your build actually unlocks, and then you just kind of respec with gold, right? From what I've been seeing, there was a Fextra Life video where he was talking about the recost, or the cost to respec. He was able to respec like hundreds of points without any issues and never running out of gold. So that's kind of what we're expecting and what we're banking on. So yeah, lots of good implications. Cast on freeze does seem like it's going to be pretty strong. All of these like cast on whatever meta abilities has some really strong implications. Cast on ignite seems like it'll be really, really strong for Infernalist as well. So I'll have a video posting plans with that as well. So some things to keep in mind. I'll definitely get more of this up and more information in regards to it, and I'll get this full skill tree preview here posted in the comments. But if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, and other than that, see you in the next one.